All right, welcome back. Week 7, the 5th show of the Rose Tackle Football Show. I am your host, Michael, with you with my brother, John. How's it going?
Hey, how's it going? Good. Glad to be here again for another installment.
And I've got my Ithaca beer hat on. That must mean we have a special guest, Ken Hoffmann, soon to be brother. How's it going, buddy?
When I look at my life and I look at milestones,
Yeah.
in order of importance and chronologically, graduating from college, losing my virginity, and then being a guest on the RTFL show. What an opportunity.
Wow.
I am jazzed.
I mean, this is
Wow.
big time for you. We understand. We understand. Well,
Huge.
we're happy to have you. So let's jump right into it. John,
Yeah, I've got a few things here with our special guest here, future brother-in-law, which I hope there's some other milestones above this and losing your virginity and graduating college. But if there's nothing else above, I think that's a great place to start. So what I have got planned for us is a quick question round from the listeners to kind of get the words moving. Everyone's kind of feeling good about themselves. So
We have listeners.
we do have some listeners. So first
we've
question.
got one girl in Thailand who seems to be a big fan.
Big fan. She wrote in just specifically for this too.
Yeah.
First question here is Ken. Do you consider yourself more Mike's friend or Meredith's friend?
I feel like there's no right answer.
You can also say John's friend, but
That's not a real option for me.
No, it's not.
So the company line is Meredith is my best friend.
Oh,
what we're going
that's a good one. That's a good one. Okay,
All right.
solid answer.
We'll edit out the other stuff that you just said, so it'll be fine. So no one else will hear this. So to follow up then from another of our listeners, have you ever done anything while as a guest at a wedding that you regret?
So the listener is you, right?
No. This is I don't want to out my listeners, but they'll probably out themselves in the
I know
chat
who it
later.
is.
Well, I regret your wedding, John, because I think I got COVID at your wedding.
Yeah. Hey, that's a pretty good answer. I didn't think you'd say that. Okay, moving on. We'll keep going. So this is for both of you now.
Okay, great.
In 2 sentences or less, why or why not should I pee in the ocean?
Why or why not?
Yeah. Should one not pee in the ocean or not?
If you got to go, you got to go. I say go.
Ken, what do you say?
I say if you pee in the ocean, it makes you an animal. It's disgusting. Surrounded by your own urine? We're advocating this?
Oh, come
on this platform? Do you both pee in the ocean?
I mean, I
would
certainly
pee
have.
in the ocean, yeah.
I don't spend a lot of time in the ocean, but I've peed in a lake.
See, that's disgusting. That's even worse. A lake, the water's not moving. You're just it's just stagnant water. You're just hanging out in your own urine.
That's not true. The lake is moving. It's moving in Lake Michigan. It's not a stagnant lake.
We're sending it down to St. Louis.
All right, John, keep firing with these.
Okay.
You have any more? Let's keep this moving.
Yeah. Lastly, what is the proper way to dispose of fat on a George Foreman grill?
My answer is you don't. You don't dispose of it. You just leave it there. You let it collect. You let it solidify, and then you freeze it.
Yeah.
And then you break it up, and then you serve it in someone's drink. That's the move.
I think that's probably the correct answer. I don't have much to add to that, but I think that's probably the correct answer.
All right. Well, that was the lightning round from our listeners.
Well, thank you, Peter. I appreciate you giving us a few questions, and I'm not sure who the other ones may have come from, but
we'll find out. There was 4 questions. 4 people gave questions. So
okay.
Quarter and fifths.
Oh, is that the other 2?
Yeah, and then
sense.
one other person.
Okay.
Bill gave a question.
Okay. Nice.
Yeah.
So let's get into it. week in review. This week, the big matchup that we were looking at was the Alpha Peters versus Ken Hoffman's Thoughts and Prayers. I'm going to pull it up here, but Ken, I'll give you first shot at this. What's your kind of takeaway from the week?
Sucked. That's the takeaway.
That's about it.
Piss poor effort. I don't know what the hell those guys were doing on Saturday night, but they did not show up on the field. It came out flat. It was bad.
Yeah, that was not the way you wanted that week to go. I think you had, how come I can't find it? I'm gonna have to edit this out.
Yeah, go back.
Yeah, I got it, Jen. So the big takeaway here is Peter basically had everybody on his team show up. He had the biggest weeks from several guys, including Justin Jefferson, who I would have covered this later in the show, but that kid apparently is for real and is going to be around for a while. I'm impressed.
37 points. 37 points.
Peter's going to have him on his team for, I would imagine, three years from now. So
yeah, I should have gone out and got him in that trade instead of Tyler Boyd.
Well, let's talk about some trades. So Ken.
No, wait. Before we get into trades, can we just talk about he got 25 points from his kicker and his defense? What? It's ridiculous.
Well, yeah, I want to talk about that because speaking of trades, he traded for Justin Tucker.
And, he knew it. Change of scenery. That's all he needed. Change of scenery.
Yeah, and so he went out and he beefed up his kicker spot, which was good. I do think though, looking at trades, you went out and got Kelsey, and I know that when I was talking with you about possibly trying to trade Kittle, you'd offered a number of people, including Robert Woods and Terry McLaurin and Crowder. It seems like you chose the right person with Terry McLaurin having a down week this week, and Crowder did okay, but Terry McLaurin, seems to be doing all right. Kelsey showed up for you.
Oh, I had two weaknesses on my team: quarterback and tight end, and I wanted to go out and get one of the top two tight ends. I don't know where John's head was at. I made fun of you for trading for CeeDee Lamb, but he looks legitimate too. I think he's like 6th in the NFL in receiving yards, and
that may
looks
not
legit.
matter if he doesn't have a quarterback that can get him the ball.
He's got the Red Rocket.
Yeah.
We'll see. Well, Ken's audio cut out.
Yeah, I want to go to one of two top first time recap leader. Are we good?
Now you're good.
Yeah, you're good now.
Your audio cut out there for a second.
It's too bad. I really missed out on a lot of quality content from the 4 listeners.
I'm sure that was a great comment. The Kelsey trade, looking forward. So, well, you know what? Let's save some of this for the special section we have. Why did you keep Claypool? I mean, what was the idea behind starting Madison? That's the only thing I don't get. Where did that? Why?
Atlanta is terrible. They were terrible defense. You figure with Cook out, Madison is just going to have the Cook role. There's a negative game script. They got negative game script. They got down big early, and then he was off. Philly only had 10 carries. Wait, so you said because Claypool scored like 40 points, I should have started him?
Yeah, I mean, it seems apparent, right? Deontay Johnson was out again. Why not? It's not like Cleveland is a great defense. I guess
that's hard. That's hard. I do kind of see playing Madison because leading up to it, the coach and I feel like everyone was saying Madison, he's just Cook at 90%. And the way he played at the end of the game when Cook went out, he played great. And so I could see that play, but what do you do now? You don't are you dropping Madison at this point or?
Well, the idea was Madison's talent is there, right? He has a higher floor than Claypool. That's what I was going for. Hindsight is obviously 2020. I mean, look, guys, I know you don't get it. Either of you get it, but it's a challenge when your team is this deep. You have so many options. I mean, you're bound to make a mistake at some point.
I mean,
Yeah, I would say
you made several. So
yeah.
let's move on. So John had a question. You have both Buffalo running backs rostered. What's that like? And you haven't played. You're not really playing either of them. What's it like to have both running backs in your favorite team? How's it going? You enjoying
Well,
this?
I play. I'm not enjoying this. I played Singletary. I played Singletary a couple of times actually. He started for me when Moss has been out. The challenge in Buffalo is that they're actually a passing team for the first time in my life, and up until the last couple of weeks, they've actually been an exciting offense to watch. But Singletary, he was fine. The problem is he's not going to score touchdowns because their best goal line running back is their quarterback.
Well, I mean, they're the best running back on their team. You have two of the running backs, but you don't have the best one on their team. That's the biggest issue. Yeah.
We need to go make a trade. It's tough carrying both on my roster. But again,
I would imagine
I guess the rationale is one of them gets hurt, which Moss did get hurt, and Singletary, he got like 85% of the snaps when Moss was out. If I were to pick one to drop, it would be Moss, but I'll probably make a 2-for-1 trade, because my bench is just littered with starting caliber NFL players. So maybe we'll take care of that this week.
You should probably play some of them and win the game.
Yeah, you can start 14 spots, 14 starting roster spots, and I'd be able to fill the best team in the league.
Nobody is going to be trading with you after this appearance on this show. So let's move on. A couple big other things. I got smoked. We'll cover that in the next round or later in the show. John got smoked by Kelly, but that's really nothing new for John's team. Big win for Kelly's team. She's kind of turning the heat back up here. Maybe the biggest thing, Porter's team, Wings and Pizza, several, and we'll cover this in a minute too, but several close losses. Didn't put up a lot of points this week, but had an opportunity to pick up a big win and couldn't come through. Let's move on real quick.
Are we just going to skip over the 53-point effort when the Packers got shellacked?
I mean, we've spent a lot of time talking about
football.
We've spent a lot of time talking about Charlie's team on this show, and if that's the effort he's going to put in, I guess I don't feel the need to put in a lot of effort talking about it. So, Charlie, you're not listening, and you don't appear to be playing. So, I'd appreciate if you did one of the two. Preferably just, put together a roster that actually scores points. Not that I have a lot of room to talk.
Is that the guy that scored 17 points 1 week?
Yes, that's the same. Yeah.
We'll cover him in a moment.
Okay.
Yeah, let's save it. Okay, so news and notes section of the week. Tua starting, Ryan Fitzmagic on the bench. John, I think you had him. It doesn't really matter. He wasn't going to play. Other big things, Adam Gase still has a job. If anybody was as bad at their job as Adam Gates was in any other position, I can't imagine they'd still be employed. But somehow he is, which is, I have no real, despite the Bears connection, I don't really have any real kind of animosity towards Adam Gase. I thought his time in Chicago was fine. I'm glad he didn't, become the Bears head coach, but this is a travesty, a train wreck for the Giants.
I mean, if you look at like all the players have gotten out or gotten away from Gase and how much better they've become, he's a terrible head coach. And for him to come out and say, he's only on step 2 of what is conceivably a 10-plus step plan after 3 years there. That's not great. I mean, that's just does not inspire confidence that he understands what he's doing. And
for sure. Yeah.
Adam Gase made his name when the Broncos signed Peyton Manning. They went to a Super Bowl. And then he had the whole Tim Tebow thing. He's an offensive guy, right? Like that's his deal. The last
Yeah.
4 years as a head coach, his offense's rankings in terms of points scored, 28th, 26th, and then more recently 31 and then 32. Guy's trash.
I thought it was trending upward there. I was like, oh, okay, 28, 26, but no. All right.
Yeah, he's awful, and he's full of shit. I mean, the 10-step process or whatever. I know I'm a world-class bullshitter. I do it every week on this show for 40 minutes, and that's bullshit. So we'll see where he goes from here. Probably not anywhere good.
I was going to say one more thing. Sorry, one more thing on Ryan Fitzpatrick, because he's one of my favorite players in the NFL. It's not on the Bills. Guy's great. Guys love him. A couple of quotes from him. My heart hurt all day. And then he said, like, I essentially got fired today. And my day today consisted of Zoom meetings with the guy who fired me and sitting in a room with the guy that replaced me for 4 hours. So rough day for Ryan Fitzpatrick.
He'll be back. You can't keep a good Fitzpatrick down. He'll be back in some way, shape, or form.
Chicago next year.
Yeah, probably. Any other big notes? Waiver wire, not much going on in the waiver wires this week. Fab offers, the most competitive Fab offer bid this week was for Will Lutz. I lost out. The Blue Barracudas. Steve lost out. Ken lost out, even though he bid the same amount as Kelly. People were pretty excited about Will Lutz this week. It did not work out, and that's all we have to say about that. All right, trade block. Josh appears to be shouting fire sale, just as several other people had. Let's save those thoughts for our next section.
Yeah, I totally agree with that.
Okay, so we have a special. We have a special section coming up this week. John and I sat down, did not put our heads together, but did it separately and came up with a series of power rankings for the league. I think we both did it in some different ways. Mine was much more of a look at the roster, see what I like, see what I don't like. I think John had a little bit more of a scientific approach to it, doing some rankings of, each position group and then an overall ranking and looking at the record and things of that nature.
Nerd.
I had a lot of time on my hands, so I dig deep and
mine was done in a work meeting on Zoom, just in another screen. So we're gonna go through those. What we did to create some sort of kind of ultimate power rankings was just average the two rankings. This turned out to be a little wonky. I'm going to pull it up now. Ken has not seen this, so we'll go through it team by team with Ken. So Ken, save your reaction to your own team for as long as possible.
And react.
But we'll start at the bottom. There was one consensus team at the bottom. Actually, there were two consensus teams on the bottom. The consensus number 12 team was Charlie's team. I don't know that we need to say a lot about this team. John, I'll let you kind of take it.
So when I looked at this, obviously he has stacked every Packers player possible outside of Tanyan, I think, and the wide receivers 2 or 3 or 4 or 5, whatever they're playing now. And as we saw last Sunday, if the Packers play poorly, he plays poorly. So to give a little bit of background just on my process is I had a chart that kind of assigned values to players, and then I did groupings of like the best possible starting roster for each team. And when I was looking at this chart, so there are some players that are just like, so irrelevant that they don't have a number value, right? They're either 0 or would probably be negative value. And Charlie's team, the only players that were on this chart were the Packers players and Eckler, who's injured and, he might come back, right? So that's about it.
He
There's no other players that are even would. I don't know if any of us would even roster any of these other players on
just to
his team.
give people an idea, Charlie is currently rostering and starting, in some cases, players like Frank Gore, Greg Ward. He's starting both Packers running backs. He's rostered and has started LaMichael Preen. I don't even know if that's how you say his last name. Nyheim Hines, Willie Snead, Traquan Smith. So it's been it hasn't been great, I guess is how I'll say that.
So we're
Ken,
kicking
any
him out,
thoughts on
right?
Charlie's team?
Yeah, like this guy's getting kicked out of the league, right?
Well, that must be on the table. I mean, this is a travesty of a performance, and hopefully he can turn it around. I mean, I know he has pieces that I'd be interested in. Really, 3 pieces that I'd be interested in, but he's going to have to do some serious work on this roster to justify actually playing fantasy football the rest of the season.
Well, clearly he doesn't give a shit. He doesn't give a shit, which is fine. So at one point, does the co-commissioners just like take over his team and just make sure he fields a roster each week?
Well, as of right now, I mean, outside of his previous 2 transgressions, he is fielding a roster, so that's like good. I mean, I think they're playing. I mean, Greg Ward, I think he's gotten a target, I think, last week. So I think we're like, I guess.
Did he get a target? That's better than I
Ward
thought.
Got a target.
Okay.
I think got one
All right.
target.
All right.
I know he's your friend. I know he's your friend. Doesn't make him a bad guy, but like, come on.
Oh no,
let's move on.
He's a bad fantasy football player. All right, moving on.
There was another team on the list that had a consensus ranking. The second worst team in the league, that is the Rose City Destroyers. My brother John's team, the 11th best team in the league, or really just, the second worst team. John, your roster includes some really, top line guys like Joe Mixon, CeeDee Lamb, a nice young emerging talent, Miles Sanders, who is now injured, Saquon Barkley.
And was injured.
Yes.
He was injured too.
Saquon Barkley, a piece that you lost at the beginning of the season. So you've had some injury, some injury snafus, I guess I don't know what I'm looking for there.
One other thing that I'll point out is that I also have had the most points scored against me. And so it's been a rough go, there's gotten some bad breaks, and but also a lot of injuries, and spending $65 on Saquon Barkley was probably a ill-advised move. One of the other ill-advised move was trying to up the ante on Miles Sanders when Ken here was bidding on him, and Ken let me take him, and that really crushed my my ability to field a quality roster with some depth. And so, yeah.
How much did you pay for Miles Sanders? Like 40?
42 or 41. Okay.
Ken, you happy you don't have Miles Sanders on your team?
I'm happy I don't have most of the players on this team.
Yeah, I mean, me too, for the most part. There's a couple guys I would like. Let's keep it moving.
There's not much there.
There's not much to say. So the next team we had slightly different rankings for, but came out at number 10 was AJL. That's Alec Loesch's team. Alec's team, I think, is really top heavy and has some good talent. Derrick Henry, Pat Mahomes, Chris Godwin, Mike Evans. These are top tier fantasy football players. Unfortunately, it drops off like a fucking cliff after those 4 players that I just named. There's really no depth, nobody behind to plug in, and it's kind of cratered his season, unfortunately. And having Derrick Henry out with the game that Tennessee didn't play, definitely a tough tough go. Ken, what are your thoughts on this team?
Well, I think he hamstrung himself in the auction when he paid over $50 for Patrick Mahomes. I mean, Chris
Agreed.
Godwin, there's been a lot of weird injuries this year. So losing Chris Godwin for, I think, essentially the whole season is tough. Am I reading this correctly? Does he have Cordarrelle Patterson as the starting lineup? Is he trolling everybody?
Yeah, that's what I'm curious about as well. I mean, you got Mike Williams down there, so I think that would be the better play by a long shot. So I don't know. I think he'll probably hopefully change that.
It could be
people are talking in Chicago about Cordarrelle Patterson.
Maybe because the position is listed as wide receiver / running back, he decided to start the only guy that plays all those positions. So he's got the Swiss Army knife, the Tavon Austin of his team.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, I think we can keep moving. You know, we talked earlier on a different show about stacking those wide receivers at Godwin's and Evans, and obviously with the injury, that's an issue. But you know, if you didn't have those injuries, I think you're looking at a Tampa Bay offense, at least one that looked last week like it could sustain somebody having two top-tier wide receiver performances, but that may not be the case.
I think the only, the other big glaring issue there is, you know, having to start Brian Hill as your running back 2. And they're, you know, looking at his bench, there's really no other option there. I would probably start Hill over Kerryon Johnson or Chris Thompson.
Yeah.
Or that's it. That's really the only options he has at the moment. So
agreed. All right. I'm gonna reshare my screen in a different way. So I can pull up some rosters from here on out. Okay. So number 9, we have, number 9, we have Kelly, absolute fiasco. Kelly started off the season, it was an absolute fiasco for her team, and has since rebounded a little bit. She's got some wins under her belt, and she's got some players, specifically Ronald Jones, that has really been playing well. I like the potential that Kelly's team has in the next half of the season. I don't know that she's going to have enough to make it to the playoffs, but I do like the potential there. What do you guys think?
I'll take a stab. I think I've always been kind of high on Kelly's team here on the show. And if you pull up her roster here, you know, outside of bye weeks this week, you know, you're starting Lamar Jackson, Deebo Samuel, who I think should have a pretty good rest of season. Looking at, you know, the Niners schedule, it looks pretty great from here on out. And then, you know, Ronald Jones, Odell Beckham Jr., and Adam Thielen and Lamar Jackson, I think I said, and Dalvin Cook is down there on the bench. So it's a pretty strong starting lineup, and it's well-rounded too. Her weakest position being her tight end. Yeah, and for sure. And so I think, you know, I have her a little bit higher. I have her at 7. You had her at 10. I think you know, overall, she's also the second highest points scored. Has the second highest points scored on the season. So, you know, she's taken some bad beats, but in general, she's putting up points, and I think it's going to only improve once the Dalvin Cook comes out of the bye week healthy, hopefully.
So this ranking feels low to me. I mean, she's actually 3rd in total points. So,
she's 3rd. Okay, sorry.
Look, I'm questioning the rankings here. Maybe we're looking at record too closely, but talent alone, Lamar Jackson's off to a slow start compared to last year. Mark Ingram looks like a complete disaster at running back. Dalvin Cook got hurt. But he should be back after the bye week this week. Ronald Jones, I think he's got 3 or 4 100+ yard games. Tight end is a weakness. Yeah.
Would you put her? Where would you put her? Would you put her higher than 7?
And you guys didn't give me the benefit of some hardcore research ahead of it, but she's at least in the middle of the pack, right? So we have her as 9 here or so. I think she's probably like 6.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, I would take that. I think, you know, for me, going back and looking at this, I don't know where she's at now, if she's going to have enough. I guess Dalvin Cook, we'll see. Dalvin Cook's going to come back strong, I would imagine. Lamar Jackson, I don't know what he looks like the rest of the season. I mean, obviously you hope he returns to some type of form, but I mean, he's not going to put up the type of numbers he put up last year. That's just not going to happen. And then, you know, when you're starting guys like Deebo Samuel or Darius Slayton, I guess you're hoping one of them pops off in a week, but I don't know. I just wasn't overly impressed by it.
Yeah.
Oh, it's
I
bye
mean, I
weeks.
think her starting
Adam
lineup is, Adam Thielen and Odell Beckham Jr. are her starting wide receivers.
I mean, sure. Apparently Odell doesn't take any precautions when it comes to COVID, though. So he may be out sooner than we think.
He's just like a president. He's immune.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Yeah.
Okay, let's move on to the next. You guys can see my screen, right? When I switch back and forth between these? Okay.
Yep.
Let's move on to the next one.
Great job in Excel. Looks really nice, really tight.
Thank you. So next we have wings and pizza tied with the Hollow Earthers in the average rankings. They both came out at the, I mean, you know, these averages are hard to, there's only two people doing it. So it came out a little wonky, but tied at number 7 would be the Hollow Earthers and wings and pizza. Let's start with Josh's team, because I think it's the more interesting conversation. Although Bill's you know, stumbled here a little bit recently, but Josh's team, 1-5, the only 1-5 team in the league. He's put up points every week. I mean, not every week, but he's put up a decent amount of points. He just can't seem to get a win, and he's really had some close calls, some close games that didn't come out, where he didn't come out on top. So I like his roster.
Me too.
I like it a lot for the kind of contracts that he might be able to have down the road, but I don't know rest of season what this looks like. Guys like Allen Robinson, you can't count on at all. David Montgomery, not great. Going down into his bench, I like, you know, DeAndre Swift is somebody who he could end up signing to a contract. I'm pretty sure he got him for pretty cheap. Chase Edmonds hasn't really done anything, and Kendrick Drake is coming off his biggest game, so I don't know how many chances he's going to get.
No, I like this team too. I think it's
Okay.
you know, he's got the third most points scored against him as well. And like you said, he's had some pretty rough beats. I think 4 of those games were like within 15 points or less, a few within 10 points. But, you know, going through, like, yeah, he's a very solid team. I think Carson Wentz got off to a very slow start. You know, Mark Andrews has been very hot and cold based on Lamar Jackson. I was a little, you know, obviously with 1-5, it's, you know, it's going to be, he would have to run the table in order to have a shot at the playoffs, which I don't know if that's possible. And so it does make more and more sense, you know, him shouting fire sale and being willing to trade some assets for future pieces. But I wouldn't be surprised if he wins the next, you know, 4 of 7 or 5 of 7. So, Ken, what's your take?
1-5. Like, it's kind of weird that he's this high up in the rankings. I guess you can say, like, on paper, his team looks good, but you've seen it in the group me. Like, he's going to start selling off. So, he is not a playoff team. It's interesting. You hear a lot about quarterbacks, how like, oh, they're all kind of clustered together, like towards the top. But if you have a bad quarterback who's really underperforming, like Carson Wentz has, you're like at a negative 10 to 15 points every week against the other quarterback. And Wentz has been terrible at times. So that's been tough. Montgomery's been solid. I mean, you know, like the running back position, how many injuries there have been. He's been okay.
I guess
Josh
just
Jacobs is
watching him every week he's thoroughly unimpressive.
Yeah.
So
He has a good schedule coming up though. So
he's a Bear. He's a Chicago Bear. That's what he is.
yeah, he's an offensive Chicago Bear. That's not a good thing. Yeah, I think you're right in that, in the rankings, I think it speaks a little bit to the two approaches that we took. John took a little bit more of that statistical approach. And so Josh, on paper does have a pretty solid team. Bill, let's take a look at Bill's team. Hollow Earthers. The Hollow Earthers are sitting atop our division right now. He's 4-2. I think the biggest thing to note here is that he has basically the two best, two of the top 4 quarterbacks in fantasy right now. And that's just really not a smart move in a non-2 QB league. So if I were Bill, I feel like I'd be shopping a little bit more than he is one of those 2 quarterbacks.
Yeah, I totally agree. That was my
Bill.
my thing.
Hey Bill, I need a quarterback, buddy.
If he's going to trade for somebody, what slot do you see him filling or trying to fill?
For me, when I was looking at it, he needs to fill a running back spot.
Okay.
Myles Gaskin, I think is going to be great the rest of the season. And I think he'll end up being his RB1 down the stretch. Clyde Edwards-Helaire, from what we saw, he looks great, but we still don't know what's going to happen with Bell. And then Mike Davis is going to drop off the cliff here in about 2 weeks.
I wouldn't be so sure about that. I wouldn't be so sure that Mike Davis is just going to disappear in a couple weeks. I mean, obviously his usage is going to drop, but who knows what McCaffrey comes back like. And, depending on where the Panthers are at, I think they play Mike Davis plenty. So I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah.
It depends on McCaffrey's health, right? If he's healthy, then why wouldn't you put your best player on the field as often as possible?
Yeah,
sure.
Like Mike Davis, he's an average running back, right? That's what he's been his whole career. Maybe he's just in a good situation. I think the Hopkins thing is interesting because going into the year, a lot of people weren't sure he's going to Arizona. Mm-hmm. They spread the ball around a lot. They run a lot of 4Y. Like, is he going to be a target hog like he was in Houston? And he's the number 3 ranked wide receiver. He's 3rd in targets in the NFL. Like he's arguably the best player in the NFL. Like you give that guy the ball.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Right now, I guess it's arguably between him and Ridley. Tight end, Henry's fine. The depth at running back is a concern because Mike Davis, I don't see him being a starter once McCaffrey's back. So he's probably gonna have to move a quarterback for a running back. Myles Gaskin, I don't know. I haven't watched a lot of Dolphins games, but is anyone really excited about Myles Gaskin as their starting running back?
No, I'm not. I think, the quarterback, he has a great asset that he can flip for something. So I'd watch out for that. All right, let's move on to our next really pair of teams again. So the Decatur Staleys paired with the Blue Barracudas. We came out even at number 5 and 6 in these rankings. I had myself at number 7. John had me at number 6. So I think we'll start with the Decatur Staleys. Obviously, I have some thoughts about my own team, but I'll give you guys first crack.
I mean, the thing that sticks out to me is just the locker room issues on this team. Michael Thomas, what's going through that guy's head?
Right. Yeah. Michael Thomas is a fine locker room presence. He's bonded with our young guys. He's taken Brandon under his wing. I think Thomas is going to be okay.
He's really passionate. That passion comes out in practice when he decks a guy on his own team.
Well,
he gets suspended by his team.
we're an offensive team, not a. So whatever defense he's practicing against, I'm fine. I'm fine if he decks him. I'm not going to roster the New Orleans defense anytime soon. What I'd like, well, actually, John, Ken, you guys can go ahead. I'll wait.
I think
is Deontay Johnson healthy?
He is healthy. He practiced today. He is expected to be back this weekend.
Yeah, I'm excited to see what he does. I think Michael Thomas and Keenan Allen, if they're both healthy going into the rest of the season, they could be one of the best 1-2 punches in our league going forward. And so I think that will propel you. Hopefully Ezekiel Elliott will figure it out how to hold on to the football. And, Ryan Tannehill, like we, said last week, has been one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL since he became a starter. Has a higher passer rating than Pat Mahomes since he became a starter, and thrown more touchdowns. But he has a tough schedule coming up. And, like Ken just highlighted, when a quarterback struggles, you are looking at quite the dip in your score. And, looking at your total points for up until this point, you are near the bottom.
Yeah, I'm second to last.
So,
yep,
it's about as bottom as it gets.
That's not true. It's
standing on Charlie's shoulders, but
Okay. Yeah.
I think like I put you at 6 because I think that there's a potential here for a strong second half of the season. I think Melvin Gordon and Jared Cook are your biggest question marks at the moment.
Tannehill just speaks to how terrible of a coach Adam Gase is, right? Like Tannehill was.
Yep.
Thank you.
Done, and he goes to Tennessee and he throws 4 touchdowns.
Yeah.
Very efficient passer. I mean, you're hopefully getting healthy at the right time. We'll see Michael Thomas springs. Deontay Johnson. I think Claypool is hurting him. It probably allows Pittsburgh to ease him a bit more into the lineup. Maybe he doesn't get as many snaps as he normally would because Claypool's proven himself.
Yeah.
Tight end's a concern.
Yep.
Is Drew Brees done? Like, is he throw the ball further than 5 yards down the field?
I mean, that may not matter, though. At least I'm hoping that doesn't matter in terms of Michael Thomas's production, right? Or Jared Cook's production. But I guess we'll see. It's week 7 and it's been a pretty rocky start, and I've kind of dipped my toe in the water in terms of looking around. And I know some people have inquired about pieces of the team, Michael Thomas specifically. I've kind of maintained that I want to wait and see what my team looks like when I have everybody healthy or playing for a week. I haven't really had that yet. So we'll see. Hopefully this is the week. I definitely am, I'm going to go as far as Michael Thomas carries me. So
I agree with that. You can't, at this point you've held Michael Thomas this whole time. It's like, why hold the guy for someone else to play him when they finally get healthy? Like, yeah,
for sure.
You can't trade him now. So, and
I'm 3-3. So, it's not like I'm anywhere out of the playoff picture. Okay, let's move on to the Blue Barracudas. The Barracudas, we also had a discrepancy in the rankings. I put them at 4. John put them at 9. This, again, John's more statistics-based ranking. Mine sort of just a bullshit look at the roster type ranking. Blue Barracudas right now sitting in first place, tied with Fitz, 4-2. My thoughts, the thing that stands out to me, I've said this before, he's got some amazing young pieces, great contracts for the future. And so I think, for Steve, even if it doesn't pan out this year, next year, he's going to be a force to be reckoned with. I'd be thrilled to have a roster like Steve's. For him, the biggest thing, Watson hasn't really played well at all for the most part this year. And I'd say he has a bit of a deficiency at running back. He's got a bunch of guys around the same kind of level, none of which have really exploded. James Robinson kind of exploded onto the scene a little bit, but since then has cooled off somewhat. And he's got a bunch of great wide receiver talent that I think, going forward is really promising, but hasn't to this point necessarily worked out as well as you would have hoped.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting. He is the second highest points scored in our league so far. And just looking at this though, it doesn't seem to make as much sense to me with, like you said, the running back situation with James Robinson, and then Antonio Gibson has fallen off a bit in the last few weeks, and Mostert being injured and potentially out for 4 to 6 weeks with a high ankle sprain, and AJ Brown having to struggle through the COVID delays and whatnot, and then Will Fuller finally seems healthy, which I like. I still am having a hard time believing that Will Fuller will be healthy for an entire season. But I think the biggest issue on his team is the underperformance, like you said, from guys like DJ Moore, Shark, Marquise Brown, and then J.K. Dobbins. Looks like it could be good, but he just is not getting any touches. And then Philip Lindsay getting injured. So I had him lower just because it's all these guys have been trending downward as far as production, and so I don't know if that's going to be. Maybe if that turns around, then I think he has a great shot at continuing. He's at 4-2, so good shot to make the playoffs.
He benefited from a mistake that he will rightfully admit, just in like the auction mistake where you bid up a guy and then mistakenly hit the button and it goes above the person that had bid on him. So he got stuck with, it was either Watson or Prescott, but he got stuck with one of those two guys.
Yeah.
It's worked out. Prescott got hurt.
Okay.
Prescott got hurt. So now he has Watson. Chark has been a disappointment, but I think Jacksonville's a terrible defense. So I think they'll be playing from behind a lot in the second half. Gardner Minshew looks like a guy that was drafted in the 6th or 7th round, whenever, like throwing lollipops out there.
Yeah.
But they'll be throwing a lot from behind. DJ Moore, like Johnny mentioned, like it's been the Robbie Anderson show there for most of the season, but Moore picked it up last week. James Robinson, hot start, but he's really cooled off. I think he had 12 carries for 29 yards last week, but was saved by a touchdown. Again,
he only had 16 touches last week.
Yeah, he'll be in, I think, a lot of negative game scripts moving forward with him playing from behind a lot. But AJ Brown's getting healthy. He looks great. Will Fuller V, as it were. We'll see. Houston's been playing from behind a lot, so that Watson to Fuller connection is it's always nice to have on your team. You have like that 10+ point play potential. Gibson, I don't know. Waller's been a great tight end for the 2nd straight year. It's a solid team. It's funny that he picked up Trey Burton. As Bears fans, I'm sure you remember the hype around Burton when they signed him off of from Philadelphia.
Yep.
He had a rushing touchdown last week, and Phil Rivers has a noodle arm.
Yeah.
Targets a lot of like running backs and tight ends and intermediate. We'll see. And then if Mostert gets healthy again, they go back to feeding him the ball. I don't know. It's like in San Francisco, it doesn't matter who the running back is. They had some dude that was like a special teamer carry the load in the second half this week. So who the hell knows in San Francisco?
Yeah.
Yep.
Agreed.
Yeah, I think. I mean, again, I think the next. I don't know that this iteration of this team. I think he'll make the playoffs, and I just don't know how deep it'll go, unless some of these guys really start to come around in the second half of the season. But it's a team I'm jealous of for the future, for sure. Okay, let's move on to the next group. So, well, actually, it's not a group. The next one fits. Brendan El Bombolero. My Spanish is terrible. I'm not sure how to say that. So, Fitz tied again with Steve, 4-2 for first place in the Buddy Ryan division. I really had I had a hard time. We ranked them at the same. We ranked Fitz at the same spot. Both of us did. We both put him at 4, and for me, it was based.
But you have him at 5. I thought you had him at 5.
No, I had him at 4.
No.
Did I not?
No, just what I have here was at 5, but that's okay.
Okay.
4.
Yeah. So, Fitz's ranking was based a lot around the fact that Christian McCaffrey may come back at some point. Without Christian McCaffrey rest of season, I think this is a bottom half, maybe bottom quarter of the league team. Definitely bottom half. It'll be interesting. I mean, it really kind of his team is going to go as far as Christian McCaffrey can take him. So we'll see what happens. Ken, what are your thoughts on Fitz's team here?
It's a patchwork team. He's done like injuries happen. He got lucky with Nick Chubb going down. Kareem Hunt turns into an every down running back in a frustratingly run first offense in Cleveland. His quarterback situation is rough. I mean, Brady had that one big game a couple of weeks ago, but otherwise looks a little underwhelming. Goff, I think, stinks. I mean, when you have Sean McVay in your ear telling you what to do before the play every time, I think John, even as a southpaw, would be fine behind center in LA. I really like that Fitz took full advantage of the roster flexibility here, putting Joey Sly, his kicker, on the COVID IR list. Like anytime you have a chance to lock up a mediocre kicker, you want to keep him on the rod. Probably good locker room presence. Team's fine.
He did put Joey Sly in his. Oh boy.
That is highly
Robbie Anderson's off to a great start. We'll see if that slows down with DJ Moore asserting himself as more as number 1 there. But Anderson's been great. Cooper's obviously very good. That Dallas defense sucks, so they're going to be playing from behind a lot, even if it's Andy Danny Dalton throwing the football. It's an okay team. If McCaffrey comes back healthy, then it's a game changer. McCaffrey, like the 2019 version of McCaffrey. If he's 80% of that, he's still
the
best running back in the league. We'll see.
I agree with all of that. When I was looking at the rankings, CMC obviously bumped his team up quite a bit. But looking at Tom Brady could have a great he's been pretty good top 10 quarterback. He could continue that. But Evan Ingram, Noah Fant as your tight ends, I think could be his weakest spot. And Ken, like you said, he seemed to hit on a lot of these guys that in the auction that we weren't really expecting. Maybe we weren't thinking Kareem Hunt was going to be as good or have as much of a role in Cleveland. And then Robbie Anderson. I don't think anyone was really high on Robbie Anderson's coming out of the off season, but with Juju playing like shit, being able to plug Robbie Anderson in there instead is a great benefit. And then another thing was, he weathered the storm with Kenny Galladay being out for the first 2 or 3 games, and he's sitting at a 4-2 record. So it's
for sure. I mean, he's 4-2 without his best player. I think he's certainly happy with that.
Robbie Anderson, another example of the Adam Gase effect. That guy fucking sucks. How is he still ahead of him?
I know. It's crazy. All right, let's move into the next phase of this. So we had 2 teams tied at number 2. One was the Average Peters. The other was Thoughts and Prayers. I think John and I had them flipped in our rankings. I will tell you, this was the hardest decision, was deciding who was 2 and who was 3. We'll start with Thoughts and Prayers, Ken's team, just because they're first on the list here. So let's go.
And in your hearts. Team. First in your heart.
That's not accurate. But
at least in my thoughts and prayers, that is.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, so Ken's team, biggest weakness for Ken's team, obviously quarterback, in my view. Ken, the other weakness, and I don't know, what your thoughts on this are, but I think you're going to have a running back problem at some point this season. That's the position group that I'd be most worried about if I were you. What are your thoughts on that?
I mean, the running back is a boring but efficient bunch. I mean, my big swing was Kenyon Drake, so hopefully he continues what he did last year, but he's been a huge disappointment.
Okay.
But David Johnson and Todd Gurley, I think I got them both for like $20 or something, which was like, okay,
yeah,
they're the guy. Look at the lion's share of the carries. It turns out David Johnson, for whatever reason, just gets all of the carries in Houston, even though he looks like he's 35 years old.
I mean, that's
so it's volume. It's not a talent thing. Like running back in fantasy is more about opportunity than talent, and he's getting all the opportunity. And Todd Gurley, like he's scoring touchdowns, and that Atlanta team has a bad defense. He'll be playing from behind a lot, and he'll be getting the goal line carries. It's not exciting, but they've done the job.
I guess when I say I think you're going to have a running back problem down the road, it's that exact thing you pointed out, that they both kind of move like they're 35 years old. That's the thing I would be worried about, right? Todd Gurley doesn't have a great history of being able to last the whole season. That would concern me. Same for David Johnson. So both with injuries histories. I just, your wide receiving core, and obviously with the Kelsey trade, your tight end group are certainly among the best in the league, and will carry you. And if you can continue, I think, this sustained kind of average production from your running back group, you've got as good a shot as any team in the league of winning the championship. But that's the group that I would be concerned about moving forward. Obviously, I ranked you as 3, so you got a great team. But if I had to nitpick, that would be it. And I mean, your quarterback sucks, but what are you going to do?
It's average. I want to give John some time to say some good stuff about my team.
Yeah, I can say a few words here, and I do think that I had you at 2 versus Average Peters at 3, and when I was doing sort of my breakdown, assigning values, and figuring out your best possible starting roster, you and the Average Peters came out to within 1 point of each other, and that was not seen anywhere else. And the reason why I gave you the edge there was because of your depth. You were able to take a few pieces off your bench and trade them for Kelsey, and you still have good pieces on your bench to make more moves. And I think you've been one of the more active people on the waiver wires, and that also felt like you deserve the edge there because you're active, you are looking to make your team better, much like our number 1 power ranking person, always looking to improve that team. And I have no doubt that Matthew Stafford is not going to be your final quarterback when the season's over. So I think you'll figure out your running back situation. I'm not expecting to see Madison and Singletary and Zach Moss on your roster for in all of them in the next 3 or 4 weeks. So
I'm open for business.
That's not all you get. Yeah.
Let's make a move. If I can pat myself on the back for one thing.
One thing.
I'll say one good thing about my team.
Okay.
Back-to-back weeks, I picked up a receiver off the waiver wire that went off. Claypool scored a 40-burger 2 weeks ago, and then Christian Kerr scored 21 this past week. So I'm like the Pittsburgh Steelers of the RTFL. I just restock great wide receivers.
We'll see if you can keep at it. I'm intrigued to see who you pick up this week. All right, let's move to the next team, the Average Peters. The Average Peters are 3-3, just behind the Alpha Peters in our rankings, but also in the standings. The Average Peters. So the thing that I wrote down, and I think this was the thing that pushed me over the edge. The Average Peters have kind of a great starting core, I think, especially with James Conner and Alvin Kamara and Julio Jones. And the rest of the starters have rounded out. I do worry about his depth. I think, an injury or two could really derail this team. But if they're healthy the rest of the year, I think it's as good as any. So that's where I'm at with it. Depth is the biggest issue here.
Yeah, I completely agree. That's where I looked at when I looked at his roster. I think Alvin Kamara and James Conner could be the best running back pair, in our league right now. And it's the weakest spot, is tight end. Julio Jones, if he stays healthy, which I hope he does, he's gonna be great. And for somehow Jamison Crowder is like the anti-Gase and is the only player to ever played well under Adam Gase. So if he,
Jamison Crowder has found ways to be productive throughout his time in the league, despite being, I think, kind of a middling wide receiver. Ken, what are your thoughts? Any thoughts?
So my internet cut out for the last 2 minutes. So if I repeat anything you said,
okay,
my apologies. I'll give you a little insight into our trade that we made. This is actually in the past, in another life, I've been accused of being a very poor trade partner, where I am an irrational trade partner. But the deal we made was actually it wasn't really easy. Grab this, shockingly. Grab this number off of the very robust leak document we have of everyone's phone number. By the next day, we texted back and forth. It was like within 5 texts, it was done. We matched up really well. He, like you guys said, he had a depth problem. Mm-hmm. So he had Kelsey. He's a Bears fan, so he's a big into Jimmy Graham. He was actually a starting flex for a couple of weeks, so there's an opportunity there. And Crowder and McLaurin now is starting wide receiver, so it worked out well. Crowder, he's been banged up. He's missed a couple of games. In terms of average, in terms of fantasy points per game, he's the 6th wide receiver. That Jets offense is dreadful. There's no one else to throw the ball to, so he gets double-digit targets every week. McLaurin, again, kind of like a bit of the inverse of Crowder, where the opportunity might not be there because his quarterback situation is terrible, but he's one of the most talented young receivers, I think, in the game.
Yep.
Julio Jones, guy's been banged up too. If he's healthy and he's right, again, in a good offense with a terrible defense, he's going to put up plenty of points. The depth is bad. You could probably cut off the bottom half of his bench and replace him with random people on the waiver wire. Yep. So a bit top heavy. We'll see what happens with Cam Newton. If they keep just running that dude, we're just running him constantly. He's going to have a lot of upside with those rushing yards.
Yeah. I think that we're in a bit of consensus there, right? A very top-heavy team with a core that is as good or better than any team in the league, that is going to be dependent upon staying healthy for the rest of the year. And if he can keep that core healthy of Julio and Kamara and Connor, and if Connor is not healthy, I'll remind you, I'm still hanging on to Benny Snell, who I paid $35 for on the waiver wire. He is available, Peter, for some backup, if you want to handcuff James Conner. All right, let's move into our final team, the Alpha Peters, the number 1 team consensus in both of our rankings. I will say in my rankings, it wasn't that, it was pretty close, I think, between the top 3. I kind of did some tiers and then shuffled some tiers around for a little while. I think, in my view, the Alpha Peters, the thing that kind of brings him to that next level is not the star power, but the even kind of handedness of his team and the depth of his team and his ability to plug guys in when guys go down. That's the thing that I've appreciated. So, Nick Chubb is out. It's not going to severely impact his lineup. I think with Henderson, with Jonathan Taylor, with Chris Carson, he's going to be fine at running back. So obviously Kittle is a monster. He's the best tight end in football. And, Kyler Murray is having an amazing season and continues to be, I think, one of the top 3, top 4 quarterbacks in fantasy. So I love the overall roster construction, especially, Stephon Diggs having a resurgent season in Buffalo. So what do you guys think?
That's why I put him as number 1 too. Just the overall depth of his roster, and if you're looking at this with in the future with Nick Chubb coming back, if he comes back healthy, to have Chubb, Jonathan Taylor, and Chris Carson to plug in, and then Justin Jefferson, Tyler Lockett, Stephon Diggs. He's just going to have the worst problem in fantasy football, which is deciding who to put in his flex, just because he has too many good pieces. And so it's hard to see a hole in his roster.
The only obvious hole is why is Marvin Jones still rostered? That's what I'd like to know.
Kenny Galladay goes down. Maybe Marvin Jones has a resurgence, but
I guess maybe.
Did he create his own logo? Can you pull that up?
He sure did. The Alpha Peters created their own logo here. I can try to
zoom in?
Enlarge it and zoom in. That is the Alpha Peter logo. I think it's pretty fantastic. Yeah.
Is that a shake? Is that a shake weight? Is that a shake weight in his right hand?
It looks like a very, light dumbbell. I don't know that it's a
it
shake
looks like
weight,
a 2-pounder.
About a 2-pound dumbbell.
Well, he's so strong and big that a shake weight looks like a tiny dumbbell.
There you go.
He's dedicated.
I would say so. Thoughts about the roster, Kim? Or not really? Oh. Ken's internet is fucked. His chat says that he had very many good jokes, and unfortunately or fortunately, we won't be able to hear them. He now can no longer hear us. We apologize, folks. This second week or second guest in a row we've had some internet troubles with. Ken has left us, but we will try, I think, the next couple weeks to get those of you back on, or those of you on who have stronger internet connections. Ken, you back with us? He's smiling, but he can't hear anything. Oh boy. Okay. Well, I think we're gonna move along now. Yeah, Ken's going in and out. He's got nothing. Always has, but especially in this case. So let's move into our next section. Just a quick look at the final rankings, actually. So that final list came out to the Alpha Peters at 1, the Average Peters and Thoughts and Prayers tied for 2, Brendan in 4th, the Blue Barracudas and the Decatur Staleys tied for 5th, the Hollow Earthers and Wings and Pizza in 7th, tied for 7th, Absolute Fiasco at 9, AJL, that's Alec Loesch's team, at 10, and rounding us out, we had the Rose City Destroyers at 11 and Charlie's team at 12. We're going to wrap it up here with our look ahead. Not going to look at any of the games this week, but we will do a little Survivor update. John, you were right. This is the first time I've ever said those words. You were correct. It was a good call, me going out last week. I had a disaster of a week. I think on par, not on par with in terms of points with what Charlie had a couple weeks ago, but and I can say I put in a little more effort into it, but the outcome wasn't much better. I put up 60 points. The only person to break into double digits on my roster was Ryan Tannehill. He was a trooper, put up 30 for me, but nobody else put up more than 9. So it was a real disaster. Congrats, John.
Thank you. Yes. I looked at your roster and said, holy shit, this is terrible. No, it's, that's okay. Despite me scoring more points than you, my highest score of last week was my kicker. And so,
there you go.
At least your quarterback put up some decent points.
Well,
Michael, I'd like to welcome you to the party platform.
Thank you. It's nice to be there
every week. Yep. Sunshine, beers, we've got it all. I think we are now at the exact halfway point. You have joined us. There are 6 people left, on the island, and we're going to make this a weekly thing here. My next prediction to welcome onto the party platform is going to be Brendan El Bombolero. He's facing a tough matchup this week.
That's right.
Against Ken here, and while he's not found a kicker yet for the week, I think regardless, they're coming. His players are coming in some tough matchups here. I don't think Amari Cooper is going to get the work that he is normally expected to. Evan Ingram, trash, and then Kareem Hunt. Also, Cincinnati's not great, but there's a lot of dysfunction there in Cleveland, and we'll see though.
Kareem Hunt could have a big game.
He could. I think Cleveland itself is a pretty bad team, though. So but that's my prediction for the week.
Yeah, don't count out Joey Sly. He's got a better than average immune system, so thoughts and prayers goes out to him for healthy COVID recovery. Just marinating in his IR spot, ready to get rock and rolling again in week 7.
Yeah, we'll see. I like the pick of Brendan's team. We'll see. This is getting to the interesting point in the season, right, where there are already 6 people off the island. So you really don't even need to have that low a score to get kicked off. In fact, I would say the 1, 2, 3, 4 worst teams in the league are already off the island, so there's not going to be any more gimmies. It's going to be interesting going forward. All right, thank you everyone. This one ran way longer than any other show that we've done, but the power rankings took up a big chunk of that, I think. So we hope you check it out. I guess if you've listened to this and heard me say that, you already have. John, thank you as always. Ken, thanks for hopping on this week. It was a pleasure to talk to you.
Cheers.
Wow, West Coast life now, huh? You're just like throwing up the shaka, huh?
Just trying to fit in.
Yeah, that's all right.
Well, that long ass hair works pretty well. So.
Oh boy. All right. Thank you, everybody. We'll talk to you next week.
All right. See you next week.